Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the Board of Directors meeting for Community Transit for April 6, 2023. The Board of Directors meeting is conducted in a hybrid format, both in person and remote, and is recorded and live stream. Rachel, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Daughtry.
Here.
Mayor Frizzell.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Marine.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Mead. Councilmember Merrill.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Nearing.
Here.
Thank you. Labor Representative Norton.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Roberts.
Here.
Thank you. And Councilmember Schweddy.
Present.
Thank you. Chair, we have a quorum, and as far as the board alternates go, looks like we have Councilmember Gallagher in attendance in the audience. Do we have anyone online? I don't believe so. Chair, that concludes roll.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment, and we have one in person. Peter Mycutt, if you would like to come to the podium. And you have 3 minutes. Rachel will keep track of that.
Check. Test. Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. I'm grateful to be here as a citizen of Snohomish County in support of community transit moving forward with its 2024 and beyond service transit plan. I'm here to support the mechanics that keep the buses running, the drivers that drive those buses to get the people who ride from where they are to where they want to go, just like the mission statement states. I also support all of you board members in making wise stewards of spending the public's money, which I understand approximately an average of about 17.5 million is collected in sales tax per month to provide that service. I'm also thankful that the CEO for lifting the mandate allows the drivers who are let go, terminated, or separated, however you choose to look at it, to come back and be a part of the family. I'm also concerned that I found out today that the mechanics that were let go are not being recalled to come back. Well, I'm thankful for family of drivers who do everything they can to stay alert and attentive to their responsibility as a coach operator, so that, as agreed in the partnership pledge of the newest contract between Community Transit and Amalgamated Transit Union 1576, they can provide efficient, reliable, and convenient service in order to best serve the public. They also agree that the best way to accomplish this is through all well-maintained equipment, ergonomic workstations, and the efficient use of qualified professional workforce and adequate facilities and rest periods, that employees are entitled to fair wages and safe working conditions. Moving forward to the transit plan, this company needs drivers. It needs mechanics. And that's not going to happen unless there's an emphasis on support of those mechanics and drivers. And you're wise stewards of the public's money. I ask you to invest in operations, hire the drivers, and offer those safe and working conditions. Bring back the mechanics who are well skilled in their departments, because the new hires coming through, they're just getting used to the dynamics of everyday life as a transit operator or as a mechanic. They're learning. They come in with a toolbox, or they come in and they know the basics. But they don't know the dynamics, where parts, like in a mechanic, know where the parts room is, where they're going to set up the workstation. As a driver, they know how to drive and pull in and out of zones. They know how to, the basics, but they're not familiar with the working conditions. And right now, the biggest roadblock to bringing people in for the drivers is a 13.5-hour work rule. That means the company guarantees 8 hours of pay within a 13.5-hour work rule. That driver's going to come in one day, work his 8 hours, come back 8 hours later and work another shift. over and over, and requires what's called a turn them out, burn them out program. Now we need to reduce the spread time to 12 hours, like all other transit agencies have done.
Could you
Thank you.
possibly wrap up, sir?
Okay. It needs to be done. If you can do that, you'll have the best workforce possible, getting plenty of rest, and we can move forward. With that, I thank you and wish you all a very happy Easter.
Thank you. We have one remote that's on Zoom, and I'm going to apologize up front if I pronounce your name wrong. Gyrish Van Garu. Are you on Zoom?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh. Can I go in?
Yes, you're free to
Right.
go.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm here to talk about community transit that goes to Seattle from Snohomish County. And this is the only bus that goes to Seattle through Kirkland. And one of your colleagues explained the situation, like why it's happening. But my concern here is this bus has so much potential and it's serving rightfully for Snohomish County, but along the way, it could benefit a much greater Washington community. So the problem here is it has multiple stops within Snohomish, and after it passes Snohomish County, the bus doesn't stop in the freeway stations in Kirkland and Bothell. As a result, what happens is it just bypasses the freeway stations and goes without taking the people who are waiting for those bus. So it's a lot of the trip planners today say that this bus stops there and people have been waiting forever and this bus doesn't stop. So my request here is to see if the leadership here can accommodate the request where it's a pretty low hanging fruit, in my opinion, with clear benefit and there's no reroute needed. Just has to like stop in the bus, which is designated to like stop. And frankly, it leads to a lot of, it elevates it, without the stop, it creates a commuter hardship. And I request that the bus stop in these designated stops, and then that can help a lot of other folks like me. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. So is there anyone else online that would like to speak? Can we ask you to use the raise hand button? Do you see anything? Okay. Then we will go down to our presentations. And the first is our fun part, and it's the Employee Excellence Awards.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is indeed the fun part. As the former chair knows, each year, Community Transit recognizes employees who exemplify our mission, vision, and values in their daily work, and we recognize them in their workplace for the contributions they've made to the success of the agency. So this year, in early March, the executive team surprised the 2022 awardees in their places of work. We surprised some of them, maybe not all of them, but we got a couple of them. Anyway, to celebrate with their colleagues in their offices and in their places of work. And then just the other day, we brought everybody together and had an employee awards luncheon at Rose Hill Community Center with Mayor Marine, and that was really fun. It was the first opportunity we'd had to get together in person with an employee lunch since before COVID. And it was really, really a great event. And I thank Mayor Marine again for being there with us and hosting. So we presented formally in that luncheon 12 awardees with excellence recognition. So I'm going to name each of them right now. And as I do, and I say their name and title, you'll see a picture of them on screen. But before that, there were a couple of pictures of the luncheon. So we'll start with Danielle Arceo, who is an HR manager for people operations, and she's been instrumental in our recruiting strategy for employees. Gemma Ardiente, who's a senior accountant and plays a major role in our audit process and all the expenditure reports reviewed by the Finance Committee. Anne Marie Gibson, customer service sales and distribution lead. She works in the ride store at the Linwood Transit Center, and she's been instrumental in helping our customers through the pandemic. Rob Jensen, Regional Technology Program Manager. He's right over there. Rob, raise your hand. He was Community Transit's point person on Orca Next Gen and just did an amazing job and has been at that for a long time and is recognized in the region as a leader among all the transit agencies. Dan Jerome, I don't know if Dan's here, but he's a Senior Capital Project Manager and oversaw construction of this building. Rich Link, in-house transportation supervisor. He's the shop steward for the supervisors IAM unit and is just a tremendous contributor to the excellence of the service that we provide every day in supporting our employees. Kerry Mullen is probably in bed right now. He's a facilities maintenance lead who oversees maintenance of our facilities overnight on the graveyard shift and is a tremendous leader and teacher of new up-and-comers within the facilities group. Mark Myers, coach operator and also a shop steward with ATU and a vocal supporter of all of our new employees who come through. He attends every graduation of coach operators. He also manages, along with Trent Botham, our community transit softball team. Cheryl Olson, HR business partner. Is Cheryl in the room today? Cheryl is one of the true rock solid performers in our human resources group, supporting recruiting and managers and directors and their employee development efforts. And then Michael Shea, journey mechanic and component rebuild. He's been with the agency a long time and he's instrumental again in training and teaching new mechanics who are coming up through the pipeline and apprentices and how to take care of our vehicles. His attention to detail is remarkable. And of course, Chris Simmons, no stranger to this group. We'll be hearing from him later. Manager of system planning. Chris is relatively new to the agency, came in quickly and undertook successfully a range of significant challenges, including the youth fair, policy change, and of course, the 2024 and beyond network. Last but certainly not least, Samantha Thompson-Daly, our staff development manager in our training group, who is a leader among our managers, helping our up and coming leaders develop in their careers and learn how to be better leaders themselves. We also presented a CEO and board chair award, as is our practice, and we've invited those two individuals here today. So I would like to recognize Mayor Marine to present the board chair award for 2022.
Podium or stay here?
Podium.
Okay. All right. Kind of feel like I should be facing this way. So thank you, Rick, very much. On behalf of the Community Transit Board of Directors, I am pleased to present the 2022 Board Chairs Award to Amber Nichols. Come on up. So Amber, thanks for joining me at the podium. Every year, the board chair nominates the recipient of the Board Chair Award, and 2022 was a year when coach operators went above and beyond to serve our community. Amber is hired as a coach operator in January of 2021. Not a lot going on then. The welcoming attitude she brings to her job every day is reflected in the numerous commendations she receives from her customers. She is known for being friendly, always in a great mood, professional, courteous, considerate, and above and beyond. Customers commented that she greets everybody getting on and off the bus, tells people to have a good evening and watch their step, and answers all customers' questions. One customer shared how extremely helpful she was to be a first-time rider who was having difficulty navigating the service. Customers tell us she is phenomenal, and her coworkers could not agree more. She is a wonderful member of the team, demonstrating our vision and mission daily. On behalf of myself and the board of directors, thank you for your dedication, and you exemplify each and every one of Community Transit's core values. We are honored to have you represent this agency to the customers and the communities we serve. We help get people from where they are to where they want to be safely, and more importantly, with a smile. Congratulations, Amber. very much.
Thank you.
You want to say anything? Hi. Hi. Oh, okay. All right, Rick. Great.
Okay, I'd love to welcome Trong Tran up here to the podium. You feeling well rested? This is the third time we've done this, so I'll try to make it a little quicker because I know you have urgent business. But Trong started as coach operator in November of 2018, and he displayed an excellent customer service ethic right away. And he carried that trait forward into his promotion to dispatcher in February of last year. He displays exceptional leadership skills and a friendly disposition, making him an excellent team member. He's consistently shown his commitment to service of our customers by doing everything he can to cover open work. You'll hear us talk a lot about active dispatch. That is the craft of aligning employees with open shifts to make sure all the service gets out on the road, so we never leave customers standing there by the side of the road. Well, 2022 was particularly challenging as we were thin on staffing, and Trong elevated that active dispatch practice to a high art and helped teach his colleagues how to make sure that we were keeping our service going. It can be really hectic at the dispatch window, and he always maintains a positive and professional attitude during difficult times. He can even multitask when on the radio or in the window without missing critical details. He covers operator work even in his off time if he's not needed in dispatch. He's always helping his fellow dispatchers, coach operators, and transportation supervisors. He's a subject matter expert for VoIP, our voice over internet protocol radio communication system, and also inclement weather planning. He's a true team player. We're lucky to have him. When asked for a two-word phrase that best describes you, your leadership team came up with rising leader. Just a couple of the things your fellow employees have said about you. He's continuously calm and cool and collected, even though we all know the sky is falling all the time. Trong's an amazing asset for community transit to have. He's a reliable, hardworking member of the team, always ready to keep dispatch afloat in a pinch. And he's probably going to kick me for this, but he and his wife just welcomed their third baby girl yesterday. Wednesday. Yeah, that would be yesterday. Thank you. Congratulations. Go home and take care of that family. All right. I think he joined us during a shopping run. So anyway, thank you, Mayor Marine. Thank you again to all of our awardees. Thank you to Sue Jensen, who coordinates our employee awards every year. She does an amazing job making our employees feel recognized and special. That concludes employee awards.
Thank you. Next item is the 2022 ridership report. Olivia Woods.
All right.
Should be on.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay. Hi. So I'm Olivia Woods. I'm from the research and analytics team, and I am excited to bring you our 2022 performance report. So we'll start off by talking about our whole system here. So this is looking at our regular bus, our Swift mode, Vanpool, and Dart. And what we saw was a 19% increase from the previous year. So really good news, almost 1 million extra boardings in 2022 compared to the previous year. So we ended at 5.8 million total, 3.3 million on our regular bus, 2.1 million on our Swift, 281,000 boardings on Vanpool, and 105,000 boardings on our Dart service. And what you'll notice if you compare all of these numbers to the previous year is that every single one of our service modes increased in boardings over 2021. So all modes are doing better than the previous year. So overall, our bus service is about 58% of our boardings, Swift 35%, Vanpool 5%, and Dart is 2%. So for an average day, we're looking at about 19,000 boardings for weekday, 10,000 for Saturday, and 7,000 for Sunday service. All right, next up, we'll move into fixed route performance. This is our regular bus and our Swift modes combined. So for this group, we saw an increase of 18%, about 5.4 million last year. And for a little bit of perspective, I'm showing here all the agencies in the region and their year-over-year increase. So on average, we saw an increase of 25%. So we were slightly less than that at 18%. But it is important to note that during the pandemic, agencies had a disproportionate reduction in ridership. And so the agencies with the largest reduction are showing the most increases now. So we're really right in there with the other regional partners. Next up, we have our customers. So for fixed route, we don't have a way to look at total number of customers for the year. So we have an estimated average weekday. And the way we calculate this is we asked our customers back in fall of 2022, on an average day, how many times do you board a bus? And so we found about 2.7 boardings per customer. And so from that, we can get about 6,500 customers on an average weekday. And that is about 1,000 extra than we saw in the previous year. So a 19% increase. And then again, for a little bit of perspective here, our other method for calculating unique customers on our service is from our Orca card taps. So that methodology shows about 4,600 average unique customers each day, which we know Orca is about 65 to 70% of our total boardings. So 4,600 is about 70% of 6,500. And just showing you these two methodologies kind of align to show 6,500 people each day. Next up, we have our productivity measure. This is boardings per revenue hour. And so we went from 12.4 up to 15.5 last year, an increase of 25%. And what we saw is that 7% of our routes, which is 3 of 46, hit their productivity targets last year. So those would be Swift Blue, Route 113, Route 220. And if each of our routes, all of the 46 hit their productivity targets, we would see this number a minimum of 21. So 21 or greater would be all routes hitting target. Next up, we have our on-time performance, a measure of reliability here, and a quick definition here because different agencies measure this differently. So we have two different methodologies at Community Transit. One is for scheduled trips. So when a trip is scheduled to leave at a particular time, for example, it's going to leave at 9:37. If a bus departs from 1 minute early to 6 minutes late, we consider that on time. For our headway trips, so these are ones that are operating on a certain frequency, not a particular time. So this would be Swift service weekdays from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We consider a stop departure on time if it's between 2 minutes early and 2 minutes late. So now that you know that, out of all those different stops and trip types, we see that we depart about 76% of the time on time. That's 1 percentage point down from the previous year. And our last metric here is looking at completed trips. So of all the trips we plan to operate, how many did we complete? We saw a 2 percentage point decrease over the previous year, but ended with 97.3% of those trips being completed. And I'll just note that those bottom two metrics were really significantly impacted by those staffing challenges that we saw in 2022. And so that's kind of why you're seeing those red markers there. Next up, we have fixed route performance by route. So this is really just some interesting metrics, looking at the top 3 routes for them, give you a little bit more visual for what the network looks like. So starting off, we have highest boardings with Swift Blue at 1.5 million, Swift Green, 600,000, and then Route 201 and 202 combined are also 600,000 boardings. Next up, we have our productivity. So the highest boardings per revenue hour, Swift Blue 31. And then we have the next 2 routes are both commuters serving Linwood to Seattle. So Route 402 and 413 also high productivity. So next we have our lowest on-time performance. Number 1 here is Swift Blue, departing stops 59% of the time on time. And then next up, Swift Green at 66%. And really, this is not too surprising. And it's also related to that staffing shortage that we talked about previously. And we know that Swift, being our most frequent service at Community Transit, had more cancellations than other routes, really to reduce the impact on our service availability. So that is why you're seeing these numbers especially low. And then in third place here, we've got Route 880 from Muckleteal to Northgate, departing 81% of the time on time. And this one also has a pretty easy explanation. This is our route that's serving the Muckleteal Ferry Terminal. And so it often will hold there and wait for a ferry to come in to make sure those people will get to where they need to be. And then lastly, just kind of for fun here, we have our longest trip in miles. I'll have to guess what it is. I'm just kidding. So number one, Route 422, Stanwood to Seattle, I believe is 61 miles long. Snohomish to Seattle, Route 424, I'm going to go with a 31 miles. And then 42, sorry. And Gold Bar to Everett is Route 271 is 40 miles. Thanks. I should have had that memorized. Dang. All right. Okay, so here we have our year-over-year weekly boardings for our fixed route service. And so on the bottom there in light gray, we've got 2020, right above that, 21, and then 22 above that. So the story here, each year we've been steadily increasing year over year. It has never gone down or stabilized, so that's really good news for our fixed route service. All right, now we're going to hop over to our van pool and start with boardings again. So in 2022, as I mentioned, we had 281,000 boardings, which was up 23% from the previous year. And to compare that to our regional agencies, it's very similar. We see an average of 24% for the other agencies in Washington. And now for our customers, now this is an actual count. We are able to count the unique customers on Vanpool. And so this is for the annual total. And in 2022, we had 1,900 unique customers, up about 500 from the previous year, an increase of 31%. Boardings per revenue hour, up from 4.7 to 4.8, an increase of 1%. And then a couple different metrics here for Vanpool. Operating groups, this is the maximum number of vans or Vanpool groups that are on the road at one time. And so we saw in 2022, 239, which was up from 179 the previous year. So pretty significant growth. Lastly, we have our days operated per group per month. So in 2021, we were at about 11, and that bumped up to 14 this last year, probably that return to office kicking in a little bit. So up 28%. And if we compare this to pre-pandemic numbers, that would have been about 19 to 20 days per month. All right, on to our last service mode, which is DART. For boardings, we had 105,000, so 20,000 more than the year before, an increase of 24%, which is slightly less than the regional average of 27%, but not too far off. Customers here again, we're showing the annual total, 2,200 for the entire year, which is 200 more than the previous year. And boardings per revenue hour is up from 1.7 to 1.9, an 11% increase. And the standard target for DART here is 2.3. On to on-time performance for DART, which is defined as the percent of time that DART arrived within the scheduled window. So there's a whole window of time there. Went down 19 percentage points from 2021 to 2022. So ended at 73% of the time being on time. And I will mention this metric is also significantly impacted by those staffing challenges we saw in 2022. Lastly, for DART, we see for completed trips, we ended with 97.6% of our trips that were scheduled being completed, and we don't have available data before that, so stay tuned for the next update. Moving on to the year-over-year weekly boardings for DART. Again, the same kind of trend with 2020 on the bottom, a nice jump for 2021. But the difference here is if you look at about September, you see that the 2021 and 2022 line start to converge. And so what that really indicates is that we stopped growing at that time, that steady increase had stopped. And we've really just been holding steady from that point on. So lastly, the overall story for community transit is that we saw significant growth in boardings and in customers for each of our service types in 2022 from the previous year. And despite all of these staffing challenges, reducing service and having lower completed trips, we still provided almost 1 million extra boardings during that time. So thank you.
Does anyone have a question? Okay, John and then Kim.
Great report. Thank you. And it's really good to see the increases start back, particularly with the challenges that you mentioned. I was just curious, you had one slide in there I was actually thinking, and then that slide came up of, and I don't expect you to know all this off the top of your head, obviously, but it'd be interesting to compare 2019 to 22. And you did have one slide, 2014 to 2019, I think, on a graph that showed we're still we're a decent chunk away from getting back to pre-pandemic rates. But I'm curious in the national scene for transit, particularly for bus, is there a thought that that was just a paradigm shift that'll stay with us, that people just aren't, due to work at home or a whole host of issues, that we're just not going to see those numbers rise back again? Or what are our projections to, do we have as a reasonable goal to get back to pre-pandemic levels, or are we just adjusting for the foreseeable future to be at a different level? I'm just
Great
curious.
question. I'll hum a few bars and then maybe ask Olivia and Roland to supplement my response. So we're seeing ridership in the low to mid 60s versus pre-pandemic levels. And an overly simple way to look at that would be to conclude that the 3-day work week has taken hold. That people are working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on site and not so much Mondays and Fridays. There's more to it than that, but that's kind of what we're seeing. We feel like in the aftermath of the pandemic, we need to think differently about how we can show up and serve our customers, and that's one of the reasons we're investing in service innovation. What we hear from our customers that concerns them is a combination of safety concerns and convenience, frequency, coverage, time of day. So we're trying to address those through our service innovation program, our transit security officer unit being stood up, and the new network plan that you're going to be considering later in the meeting. There's no question in my mind that things have changed. A paradigm shift has occurred, and transit agencies like us have to evaluate that, understand that, and shift gears to respond to it. So that's sort of at the macro level. I don't know if Olivia or Roland, you want to add any additional observations?
That's what I was going to say.
Very good. I guess a couple of things. One, Olivia does own a ridership model, which, I'd say we're getting much more sophisticated in the way we project these things. And we do have a point in time where we see ourselves returning ultimately to those 2019 levels. It's a few years out. So, and I think I'm understanding those charts correctly. I guess a little bit building on Rick's comments, what the overall number doesn't tell you. We're approximately 60% or so of our pre-pandemic ridership. What that doesn't really say is a lot of that gap is on the commuter services, where it was those 5-day a week, 8 to 5 commutes that were going into the big job centers. That's where we've seen the big loss. And we've seen some good recovery on a percentage basis, but there's still, there are many empty seats on those buses. The number doesn't tell the story is that local service, we didn't lose nearly as many riders. And I think the number on our Swift buses is we always maintain something like 75% of pre-pandemic ridership levels. So we're still carrying a lot of people. Our demographic in terms of the proportion of it has shifted, and that really will, I'm giving a little bit of an advertisement ahead of time for Chris's presentation about the 2024 network. It's localized, it's in the county, and that's really our future, is we're looking at a wider diversity of services that will be offered all day rather than peak focused. And so, we will get back to those levels. Will we be carrying the same people? Probably not. We'll be carrying a different population with different patterns of travel and a much more diverse one across the entire county. So,
Okay.
I would just conclude by saying, that the two main ingredients of a productive transit system are population growth and employment growth. And even though the pattern has changed, how people are working, where they're working, those two things will continue to grow. And those two things will continue to drive the need for mobility services.
Hey, Kim, you had a question?
Okay, so that was the intelligent question. Now I have one on the other side of the spectrum. When you were talking about DART, you said that the completed trips was 97.3%. What happened to the ones that aren't on there? Well, what is an uncompleted DART trip?
Flat tire. Well, I'm gonna,
Are they just off?
I'll
on
ask
the-
Roland to step up and handle that as the overseer of contracted services.
I'm gonna state this, and I'm gonna look for Margaret, who's my manager of contracted services, to make sure I get the definition precisely right, because these are precisely defined statistics. When a customer requests a trip, and then they the window in terms of when that trip is available to provide to them, when that window adjusts and they decide they no longer want to travel, we need to classify that as a missed trip. Very close. Right. So it's the customer is the one that's in the driver's seat and elects not to take the trip because it's no longer convenient for them to do so. So that is it's a little different than, say, when we miss a trip on the bus, it's because the bus didn't operate for enough of that particular trip. So it's a slightly different metric.
So is it what you just said? I think I heard what she said was a little bit different, and I'm not trying to pick this apart or anything, but what about a person, if you get outside the half-hour window and they still take the trip, is that still a missed trip? Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah,
Thanks.
those trips would be considered late, but completed. Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I just want to offer to the numbers on the DART side are really concerning in terms of we saw a significant drop in on-time performance, which was I think the left-hand statistic on that particular page. And what I wanted to emphasize is we are that's concerning to us. And that's really impacting customers. And we are working very proactively with our contractor. We've had recent meetings in the last few weeks with senior leadership at the national level with Transdev, who provides the DART service for community transit. And I just want to say we're really focusing on that heavily. We do have some members of of Transdev senior leadership in the room today who have, supporting this contract and really demonstrating some very focused attention on it at the national level, because this is a serious issue for us. So I wanted to provide some assurance on that we're getting after that, and we look for those stats to improve quickly.
Well, I will point out that I had a very personal thing about DART in our city that was brought to my attention by an ex-council member, and it was his son. It's on my road, actually, and that was handled pretty well. I mean, it had a couple hiccups during a month or so, but it was handled pretty well. I don't think we're having any more issues because he's not calling me anymore. So I think we're doing better. But it just threw me off. It's 97.3 complete. Well, where'd the record go? So no, thank you very much for the answer. That's great. Oh, and the other question I had was, are we going to see in your presentation next year the zip?
I would imagine so.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it'll become based on our evaluation and decision on whether to move forward from a pilot into ongoing operations. Then at that point, particularly from a federal NTD reporting perspective, it becomes permanent service, and we produce reports like this that'll track it. So.
Okay, great. Thanks. Looking forward to it.
Anyone else have any questions? Anyone on remote? Yeah, Zoom up here on the wall. I have one quick thing. Is there a possibility of the board getting a copy of those slides?
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, our next item is the capital development and delivery update. Greg, you're all set and ready to go.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Stamatillo. I'm taller than Olivia. I lead the capital development and delivery team here at Community Transit, and I'm here to give you an update on our facilities master plan and Swift Orange Line construction updates. We'll be starting with the facilities master plan. Facilities master plan is for capacity and expansion to meet growth within Snohomish County, improve our system reliability, and improve our overall operations flexibility at our bases. Phase 1 of that program was completed, this Cascade Administration building here. Phase 2 is in construction, and we'll go into more detail on each of these projects on later slides. A renovation of our Merrill Creek admin building into a transportation operations headquarters. Phase 3 of the program is renovations of our Merrill Creek maintenance building. Phase 4 is the future renovation of Cash Park. Phase 5, you could see directly across the street, is our vehicle storage and training facility project. And the last phase within this program is phase 6, which will renovate our ride store at Linwood Transit Center. We're not going to dive into Cascade. Obviously, it's done. So we don't need to do any construction updates on that other than the design parameters of this project here of growth, flexibility, wellness, light, and I'm forgetting my last one. Let me check my notes. My apologies. Growth, flexibility, light, feel, and wellness. Those parameters are carried throughout the program so that the look and feel that you see here at Cascade are also going to be in the design parameters for the other projects as well. Phase 2 of the program, as I mentioned, is renovation of the Merrill Creek admin building, and transportation operations will move from the operations building across the base into this building upon construction completion. You could see lots of expansions of the windows. The former boardroom is going to be a new Great Hall multi-purpose room. And then we also on the western edge of the building, creating a new wellness center, which you'll be able to see. Construction real time. These are actually a couple of weeks ago, and you'd be shocked how fast they're going out there at present. So you can see we have a new plaza there and courtyard onto the lower right, a new vestibule entrance coming in from the south, and around to the west, a new wellness center being built. I should have mentioned the ground floor of this building will house our transportation coach operators and dispatch, our radio room, and our call center. The upstairs will house the transportation administration team and our SWIFT ambassadors. Coming around the building to the southwest corner, here is our new wellness center. As I mentioned, wellness is a priority at Community Transit. We built a new wellness center here at Cascade, and we're mirroring that effort here for the coach operators in phase 2. The western side, again, the wellness center. We're also creating a new vestibule area on the west and a covered bike storage area. The northern edge, is facing the bus yard. This is our new coach assignment center. After receiving a coach assignment from dispatch, they'll receive their actual coach assignment at this vestibule location just outside and then head out to their workday. This picture didn't come out quite as perfectly as I would have liked, but the feel that you have here where light penetrates across this building, this is the old boardroom. And you can see we knocked down a wall and we have created 2 large curtain wall windows that are boarded up right now for storage and safety. So people aren't breaking into our construction site. But once the windows are installed, just like this room here, you'll see light penetrating well across this multi-purpose, very welcoming area for coach operators to come in and work. Phase 2 is just completed 50% completion. Our project manager is also Dan Jerome there and was very excited to tell me that this week. Rick mentioned received an award for this project here. Our move-in target is trending on schedule for the end of this year, and our budget is also trending on budget. Phase 3 is broken up into 2 distinct projects. Phase 3A renovates the actual maintenance side of the building itself, where Mike Suela's maintenance team maintains the coaches. And phase 3B will renovate the existing offices east of the Great Hall, where our coach operators currently dispatch out of. You could see the yellow area is the actual building expansion. And I always call this, it's not quite a perfect analogy, but the chicken and the egg project, because we can't shut down, obviously, this base for construction. So first thing we had to do was create expanded capacity of service. So we expanded onto the building, as you see in yellow, and then also the 4 bays there at elevation view. We created a new body shop, as you can see here, and paint booth on the left, and a new body shop there on the right. There are crews moved into that area last week, and we created 4 new 60-foot articulated bays. These bays also can handle any coach within our fleets, the 30, the 40s, the 60s, and also the double talls. And you can see there the Eco 90 lifts that we are going to be expanding into the current bays. So that project is just over 60% complete and is trending on budget. That is what we call the 3A project. The 3B project, as I mentioned prior, is the renovation of the existing operations offices. That project completed 30% design, and we are actually deferring that project temporarily until we have completed our zero emissions study so that we have better information within to make correct decisions within design parameters of that project. Phase 5 of the facilities master plan is directly across the street. It is a storage facility to store band pool, coaches, and dart vehicles. As you could see in the darker gray, the lighter gray rectangle to the top of the screen is actually a 1 acre concrete paneled training circuit that will be used to provide training for completion of new CDL licenses for future coach operators. We've also moved 2 of the modular buildings that we had at Merrill Creek that were no longer needed after the expansion of that base, and renovated, are in process of renovating those for a on-site training facility so that our training team could do on-site training as well. That project has completed a lot of milestones. We have completed all the underground utilities. You can see the storm detention vault there. We have backfilled that, and weather pending, are looking to start concrete paving next week. We are about 2/3 complete of construction on phase 5, trending on schedule to be moving coaches and vehicles there sometime in the second quarter of this year. And the budget is also trending well. Phase 6 of the facilities master plan is renovation of the Linwood Transit Center, ride store specifically. The ride store at Linwood Transit Center is going to be expanded to accommodate additional customers, provide better ADA accessibility, and improve employees' work experience in spaces there. That is hopefully, not hopefully, that will be starting construction this summer and ending construction next summer. This slide kind of warms the heart for a construction manager. While we like doing the blue design phases and talking about projects, we really prefer building projects. So you can see we've discussed this. We're in active construction on 3 projects and going soon into construction on the 4th project within the program. The program is really trending well in all aspects. My next update will be update for construction on the Swift Orange Line. I presented this to you earlier this year, and I mentioned the next time I come to you, I'd like to have a lot more dots up there and a lot more yellow dots, which we have done. So a quick reminder, the dots give you updates for project sites that are under construction are green. Sites that have completed all civil work and are waiting for station kits are yellow. And sites that are completely complete, next time I come, we'll have red ones, are not there yet. So Orange Line does construction or Swift service from McCollum Park and Ride down Bothell Everett Highway, up 164th through Alderwood Mall, Linwood Transit Center, connection of service to our blue Swift line at 196th and 99, and completing terminus at Edmonds College. And you can see, we're going to see more slides coming up. We're in active construction at almost all the construction sites along the route. Rendering of Edmonds College. We're renovating and creating a very new transit center there, providing great service for the college. Here's a rendering of our new Swift. Edmonds College has progressed. We've completed the upper parking lot. We've completed a majority of the underground utilities and are in active construction on our storm detention vault at present. Highway 99 and 196 and Highway 99, we are completing the platforms and that is the service that is going to provide connection of Orange Line to Blue Line. Here's the rendering of our Swift stations at Linwood Transit Center. We're not doing significant improvements at LTC other than swifting it up, as we call it, providing better signage and connectivity, and of course our Swift iconic marker. All civil work has been completed there, and we're waiting for station kits at Linwood Transit Center. Out along the corridor, the 136th and 180th, we have completed those and they're waiting for station platforms. 164th and Swamp Creek, we've completed half of that and the other half is in construction. Larch Way, we've completed both sides actually since this picture, along 164th. And then our renderings at McCollum Park, we're building a brand new transit center there that will provide Swift Orange Line service, local service, and then of course connectivity via pedestrian paths to our Swift Orange Line, or Swift Green Line, my apologies. And here's our construction photos. We have an active construction for utilities. We have relocated a lot of the underground liner that was necessary and have created a temporary transit facility that will become a parking lot in the future. We've completed our first year of construction on Swift Orange Line quite well. Things are going well. We've had a challenging winter, but things are really progressing. If you drive the corridor now, you see lots and lots of active construction and excavation and excavators and workers at every single site. We are trending quite well for testing late this year and Swift Orange Line launch per plan March of 2024. Only other update that I would like to point out is our plan board action for facilities master plan. The only one remaining this year is the construction award contract for the ride store at Linwood Transit Center, approximately June or July of this year, with a anticipated bid of around $3.2 million. Thank you. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank
Great
you.
pictures. Okay, we're now down to the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try to go quick because there's been a lot of reporting already today. You're all aware that the main action item on our agenda today is consideration of the 2024 and beyond service network. And so I won't delve deep into that. You'll be hearing a presentation from staff, but I do want to reflect on the staff effort it has taken to get us to this point. You hear a lot from Chris, but there's a whole team of folks from almost every department across the agency that's been working over 2 years to get us to this point where we can propose this new vision for mobility in Snohomish County. It's going to increase frequency, it's going to increase coverage, it's going to connect to 3 of the 4 light rail stations. It's going to give us the flexibility to grow and adapt to serve our community. So we're very excited about it and eager for the discussion. There are some issues related to continuing to integrate with Sound Transit schedules and WashDOT schedules for their rehabilitation project on I-5. Meetings continue at the staff level and at the executive level on a regular basis to try to get those project schedules into alignment and mitigate where we see gaps and challenges. So more to come on that, but the main event today is to adopt the network so we can begin moving forward and preparing for implementation. You're aware of the recent Supreme Court case. We are in the process of developing a new set of operating procedures to coordinate the activities of our transit security unit, our fare ambassadors, and our transit police. The good news in that ruling is that the court upheld the statute that gives us the authority to charge fares and collect fares, and they recognize transit's interest in doing so. And so we will be keeping you informed as we update those procedures and begin to adapt to that guidance. I had a meeting, in fact, last week with my counterparts, King County Metro, Sound Transit, and SDOT, hosted by City Club, where we spent a great deal of time talking about how we'll be approaching that and supporting our customers at the same time. It's peak legislative season in Olympia. The House and Senate budgets are now on the table. There's some differences, but we are working busily. Uriel Ibarra from our government relations staff and Davor Jurasic are in regular contact with our legislative delegations, working to get those trued up so that the cash flows coming from Olympia to support the Gold Line and the Green Line and our other projects align with our anticipated project schedules. Uriel and I also went to Washington, D.C. The week before last for the APTA Legislative Conference, met with Peter Pizer, our lobbyist, and visited with our congressional delegation staff in the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Had an opportunity now that Congressman Larson is the ranking Democratic member of that committee to meet with his staff and brief them up on our operations and our plans for expansion, our fleet study, and our capital program. So that was a great opportunity to bring her up to speed. A couple other things on the service side. Service change went into effect March 19th. We've aligned our service to our staffing levels and are seeing improved reliability. Our innovative services program, as you're aware, is undertaking 3 additional pilot projects to build on what we've learned in Linwood. We started our outreach and public engagement process in Arlington, Darrington, and Lake Stevens, and held our first round of community meetings. We are launching community needs assessment surveys in all 3 cities. A mailer is promoting that survey. Those surveys will go out by the end of next week. So in June, we're expecting the community work groups will reconvene to review those results and begin discussing the kind of alternative mobility concepts they'd like to pursue with us. So that's very exciting. We had a joint policy committee discussion this week with the city of Everett on the Everett Transit Community Transit Consolidation Study. We are continuing to meet and expect to meet again in May to consider a draft consolidated service plan. We also have a survey out on the street as we speak, asking customers in both Everett's service territory and ours to give us some feedback, their views on this concept, their awareness and their feelings and their thoughts about our respective brands. So we'll have more information on that score to bring back as well. On the staffing front, I'm really excited to report that our coach operator count is up to 341 drivers. We've added about 30 this year. We have another 10 in training right now. And so we look to be on track to get to 370 this fall, which is where we need to be to return to a growth trend. Since we changed the COVID policy, we've welcomed back 5 coach operators. 2 of them have completed their refresher training and are already back driving, and 1 transportation supervisor is scheduled to come back next week. So that's promising as well. We heard a little bit about mechanics. We've hired 5 new journey mechanics, and they are scheduled to start April 17th. We've recruited 8 overall this year. We've got 7 more positions to fill on that front. And we're obviously growing the mechanic workforce to support the opening of Orange Line next year and the new network. As I stated earlier via email, Chief Operating Officer Mark Holmes left the agency to rejoin his family and friends on the East Coast, and I certainly wish him well. In the interim, Roland Behe will be serving as acting Chief Operating Officer on an interim basis while I develop a strategy on how best to move forward. I'll keep you informed of that, obviously, but he's the right person at the right time to keep us moving forward. In addition, I've asked Melissa Colley to step up and oversee planning and development during Roland's interim assignment. And I want to thank both of them for stepping up in this regard. They've been tremendous leaders in the organization, and they're going to be a great help as we go forward with these ambitious plans. Later this month, April 26th, we'll welcome our new Chief Communications Officer, Jeff Patrick, who's coming to us from Sound Transit. You may remember Jeff from back in the day, and I look forward to introducing him to all of you at our May board meeting. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I have one. On the Supreme Court case, I read everything out there, and the one thing that it never mentioned was the fact that the sheriff's deputies that did that were employed by us, and it never ever mentioned that. And would that not have made a difference? I mean, they were saying that they weren't supposed to do that, but wouldn't it have made a difference if the Supreme Court knew that we were the ones who was paying for them?
Well, so them acting as agents of the transit agency versus law enforcement in their own right. I don't know if it would have made a difference, and I don't want to speculate on that. I think the overall issue that the court found fault with was law enforcement in general leading on fair enforcement. They left open the possibility to use other agency personnel to conduct fair enforcement, and recognize that law enforcement may support those individuals. But yeah, they drew the line at using cops to be the people who are contacting customers first.
Oh, really? Because we've been doing that for years.
Yep.
Yeah, haven't we?
Well, not for the past year.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have been, yeah. Okay, well, everything changes, I guess. Oh, Joe.
Yeah, I'm just curious, it was brought up earlier, in public comment about, that the return from the vaccine mandate didn't apply to mechanics, and I wasn't sure if that was correct or incorrect, or if there was a difference in that.
I will have to get back to you on that. It is my understanding. So we negotiated an agreement with IAM that allows mechanics to come back. So I'm going to have to follow up and research that a little more, because yeah, it ties to whether there's an available position, and we certainly have available positions. So
Yeah, it surprised me, that's why I thought I'd ask.
Roland is
Roland.
offering additional commentary.
Sorry.
Yes, speaker.
We can provide more detailed follow-up, but my understanding is that we did send out recall notices to 4 mechanics, and we haven't had any responses yet.
Thank you. I like that question. Okay, now we're down to committee reports. The first one is the executive committee report. The executive committee met on Thursday, March 16. Mayor Marine, Councilmember Merrill, Councilmember Daughtry, and I attended. The CEO report shared earlier in this meeting was provided. And the next executive committee meeting is scheduled for April 20th at 11:30. So we're down to finance, performance, and oversight. Mayor Roberts.
Okay. The Finance Performance and Oversight Committee met on Thursday, March 16th, 2023 via Zoom. Board members, Councilmember Jared Mead, Mayor Christine Frizzell, Mayor John Naring, and I attended. Consent items, we have today approval of February 2023 monthly expenditures and payroll, and those will be items 7B through F on today's agenda. Information items, the committee reviewed and forwarded the 2022 ridership report presented to the board. That was presented just a little while ago. In terms of reports, the 2022 fourth quarter financial report, which was unaudited, was presented by Lori Fox, our financial controller. She presented the fourth quarter 2022 unaudited financial report to the committee. Community Transit ended 2022 in a strong financial position. A copy of the report is included in your packet. The audited 2022 annual comprehensive financial report will be provided to you once the audit is completed later this year. Item number 2, February 2023 sales tax report. In February 2023, Community Transit collected approximately 18.9 million in sales tax revenue, approximately 600,000 less than budgeted, however. February 2023 sales tax collections reflected purchases made in December 2022. A copy of the report is included in your packet. Finance staff will continue to monitor sales tax revenue closely, as it accounts for almost 70% of the agency's operating revenue. And thirdly, February 2023 diesel fuel update and report. The average cost per gallon year to date is $3.93 per gallon, while the average cost per gallon budgeted for 2023 is $4.25. This results in a favorable variance of 32 cents a gallon year to date. The next Finance Performance and Oversight Committee meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m. Thursday, April 20, 2023 via Zoom. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. The Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee, Councilmember Merrill.
Yes, the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee meeting was held remotely on Wednesday, March 15th. In attendance were Councilmember Daughtry, Mayor Marine, Councilmember Peterson, Labor Rep Norton, and myself. Action items were the committee reviewed and forwarded one action item to today's agenda, which we will get to here in a moment, the 2024 and beyond bus networking proposal presented to the board by Chris Simmons, Manager of System Planning. On information items, the committee heard and forwarded one informational presentation to the board, the capital development and update and delivery update, which we just saw by group presented by Greg Stamatillo, manager of capital development and delivery today. The next strategic alignment and capital development committee meeting will be held remotely on Wednesday, April 19th at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could I get a motion for the consent items A through F?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we're down to our action item and our presentation on approval of the 2024 and beyond bus network restructuring proposal. Chris Simmons.
Uh-oh, need to go one forward. There we go. So if we started off with the eye-catching awards, we just finished the in memoriam section of the Oscars, and I guess we're now proceeding on to best picture of the year. Is that the way we call this?
So far.
So far, yes. Just before I get started, as Rick mentioned, it's important to thank all the members of the organization who've had a hand in this. Obviously, this has been the major focus of the system planning and scheduling team's work, but this has really been a multi-departmental effort for multiple years preceding my arrival here at the agency. So just our thanks from our group to everyone who has participated in this, in what we've gotten to here for an end product. Just a couple of reminders. Hopefully not that anyone needs them at this point, but it helps set the stage. Our vision for 2024 and beyond is really to restructure our service to leverage the regional investment in light rail entering Snohomish County. If I'm in one of my more cheeky moments, I would call it putting the community back in community transit rather than the commuter in commuter transit. But this is really leveraging what we expect at its end build to be a frequent and reliable light rail service along the I-5 corridor into Snohomish County that allows us to redeploy the community transit commuter buses into feeding that light rail service, which at the end of the day results for more transit for everyone in Snohomish County. Just another reminder of the service goals. I'm pretty sure everyone can sing this along with me at this point, but under our agency mantra of travel made easy for all, this service plan was developed with 4 goals in mind: connecting our bus service to the light rail service, expanding access to our frequent service provisions, adjusting to that changing market that we mentioned, especially taking note of the lack of return of that commuter transit market, but the continuing strength in our local transit users, and focusing on equitable access, making sure that we are respecting the needs of all the diversity of our communities across our service area and making sure that to the best of our ability, we're designing that service to meet those needs. So again, I apologize, but there is no way to get our system map on a single PowerPoint slide that is actually legible, but that is the entirety of the proposed system map before you today. It is for 480,000 annual service hours at completion, or a 32% increase from where we are currently operating on 35 routes. It includes the Swift Orange Line and Swift Blue Line expansions that have already been approved by this body. It replaces our commuter bus system with a new express route system to feed the light rail stations. At its ultimate opportunity, it has 3 times the routes with a 20-minute or better frequency or headway, more than double the routes with a 30-minute or better frequency, and truly does our best effort to adapt to the shifting ridership on local service as we understand it to date. I say that you asked a number of good questions earlier in the performance report, asking what are those trends, how are they going to continue? There's still a lot of guesswork going on inside of the transit wonk community as to how that is going to move forward. This is our best understanding of where we stand to date, but there's going to be continuing adjustments going forward as we move and adapt and learn about how the communities react to the new light rail service, as well as how return to work continues to operate moving forward. The benefits that we were able to design into this system include more midday and evening service throughout our service area, including for Snohomish, Arlington, and Monroe. We've created new all-day connections along I-5 from Stanwood down to Linwood City Center Station, or the Linwood Transit Center. We've improved the route grid in Marysville so that you're able to create a more direct east-west trip and not constantly have to circulate in order to be able to get around to where you're trying to go. We've created new routes in Mill Creek, Martha Lake, and the Bothell areas for better east-west connections. It's not perfect. We're hoping to get there in the future, but it's definitely an improvement from where we stand today. And we have redesigned the routing in Edmonds, Linwood, Montlake Terrace, and surrounding areas to create that frequent bus-to-bus and bus-to-rail connection that the new investment in Linwood Link and its opening is going to allow us to provide. Some graphics to show how we've managed to do that. This illustrates the increase in the frequent services. So the gold lines are routes operating at a 20-minute or less frequency. So every 20 minutes is another bus. Blue is between 20 and 30 minutes. The graphic on the left is how we are operating today. The graphic on the right is at the ultimate design of service as to how we would be operating with that frequent service. You see a long blue line to Seattle that doesn't exist in the new network. And you can see what sort of results that has from our ability to provide that more frequent service throughout our benefit area. Same concept here, but for midday service. So outside of the peak travel periods, peak periods still do exist. They don't just exist for commuters. So there is a reason that we still talk about peak periods, but this is for midday. You can see again, the benefits here are that we've been able to drastically increase the network for how it applies for our midday services as well. This is what I call the Space Invaders graphic. So let me explain this a little bit. For those who remember the 80s and Space Invaders, you get the idea. There's two things to note in this. This is both an understanding of service span as well as when we are providing the service. So outside or to the left and right of the solid lines would be span. So how early do we start or how late do we start? You can see that we've got a significant increase, especially in weekday services on that weekday span. It ends up being a 44% average weekday increase with some more modest, but still significant gains on Saturday and Sunday span. The other part to look at from these graphics, left being current, right being proposed, is how much is filled in between those lines. So how much of that service is peak only versus how much of that service is all day. And I think what really shows up in these graphics is just how much of the service previously had been done as peak period only, and how we've been able to fill that in and really create all day services throughout the service area. So it's a little difficult to understand at first blush, but if you look at it more like a picture, go outside the lines and inside the lines, I think you get an illustration of where we are in this new plan. We've also created an increase in coverage. There's some different ways of talking about this, but we're talking about this in terms of coverage for where we are creating service that doesn't exist today. So in the case of Route 102, we're creating new connections to Edmond Swedish Hospital. There's a new Swift Blue connection at 216th Street and on 212th Street that doesn't exist today. So we're increasing connections to and from Edmonds. There's a brand new Route 121, which will run Ashway down North Road to reach Bothell. That will actually serve Linwood High School directly, which is a service that we've been asked for years. A Route 30 has been adjusted, so we will now be serving more residents on 9th Avenue in Edmonds than we had previously. And we've also changed Route 222. This is that grid improvement I was talking about for Marysville. So now from the Tulalip Reservation all the way through Marysville, you're going to have a direct east-west access that then will connect to a new 223 that actually provides that circulating service. So you'll be able to create a more direct connection for travel around Marysville as well. The express network that we've created in this proposal, on the left is the current commuter service and where it runs. On the right is our proposed express service. The express lines would be in purple, but we've also illustrated routes or link lines 1 and 2. I think they eventually turn into line 2 and 3 in Sound Transit's long range plan, but don't worry about that part. Just know that 1 and 2 means the link light rail. And how we've designed that express network to really tie into the regional investment in creating those connections in the process. As we had presented in February, when we originally presented the final proposal, we did do a Title VI analysis on the full network, examining for disparate impacts or disproportionate burdens on low income or minority communities. We did not find that those impacts were created under that analysis, and therefore we did not have to change our network in response to any of those burdens. We also conducted a fairly significant public comment period from February 2nd to March 4th over email, social media, web, and for the first time since the pandemic, an in-person outreach. We received over 100 comments in that process. Those comments kind of can be bunched into 3 different buckets. One is to maintain bus trips to downtown Seattle after Link Light Rail opens. Another bucket would be concerns over how individual schedules or connections would be impacted under this new network. And a third was voicing community support for the increased frequencies and span of service as we had proposed in the proposal. That is a live picture of our in-person public outreach at one point during the process. We were in attendance at the Sound Transit scoping meeting for the Everett Link extension, giving folks attending that meeting an opportunity to comment on our 2024 network as well. Sound Transit estimates there were over 1,600 people in attendance at one point or another throughout that scoping meeting. I don't think that comes as any surprise to Mayor Frizzell, but it was an opportunity to put that same message back in front of the public and get their comments as well. We did review every individual comment against our plan. I would say in response, the agency priority continues to be that we will increase service within Snohomish County, leveraging the regional investment and the county investment in light rail coming to the county. And that allows us to provide the additional service within Snohomish County through our own network. And as for the connections issues that people are concerned with, we're going to continue to review our customer experience data. Where things don't work for connections that people need to make, we're going to make adjustments. Where things are working well, we're going to hopefully keep it that way. So it's difficult to predict with an exact specificity as to how those connections are going to be done until you actually put the pieces out on the roadway and how people react to them. But we're going to continue to monitor our performance and make sure that we're doing the right thing for our riders. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the looming behemoths in the background on implementing the 2024 and beyond plan, which are the Revive I-5 project and the opening of Linwood Link date. For those who aren't familiar with the Revive I-5 project, this is the project from WashDOT that will be essentially reconstructing I-5 between 117th Street North, is it east or west? Northeast, and Yesler Way. It will involve multi-year long-term lane closures prior to Linwood Link opening. So we have to create a response to whatever that construction plan is. The dates of the closure won't be known before November of this year. So in terms of our planning process, we either have to plan ahead with options and implement when we know information, or scramble and try and catch up as soon as we know what's going on. We're proposing as a part of this project that we be given the flexibility in our overall service plan, that you know what vision we're going to achieve, and give us the flexibility to be able to respond to those changing dates and changing impacts. It's much the same with Linwood Link. While we have an estimate of when Linwood Link is officially going to open, Sun Transit's going to be making some board decisions again this fall that will set new dates on the opening of Linwood Link and the level of service that's going to be provided. Again, we need the flexibility to be able to respond to that. It shifts when we would apply resources. It would drastically shift when we're going to provide service down I-5 in Seattle or not. And so we know it's an unknown, but we can plan ahead. But trying to match other agencies' planning dates with our own process is nigh near impossible. So the proposal here is to allow us the flexibility to be able to respond to those changing conditions. And to give a sense of how we're doing that, this is the timeline from where we are today to when we would fully implement this new network under the full frequency that we've proposed. Basically, we're already working on the September service change to respond to both the growth in the number of operators, but also looking ahead for what we're going to need. We're looking ahead to what we're going to need to do the Orange Line launch, still planned for March of 2024. But we know that somewhere between July of 24 and let's call it March of 25, we're going to get some launch of Linwood Link service. But we also know that the linear lane closures on I-5 are going to start no earlier than July of 2024. So how all of this plans together, I'm really talking about this in terms of a window where we're going to be taking the next 6 to 9 months to have all of our options fully vetted so that when decisions are made, we're able to implement them. So I'd say our commitment is to keep you fully informed throughout the implementation of this process, but we're asking for your approval of the ultimate vision that where we're going to go. So we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel every time we're having to make these service changes and do additional process that I think would take a lot of the board's time and not necessarily provide extra value to either you as a board member or to the community at large. So our recommendation as staff is that you approve our 2024 and beyond bus network restructuring proposal as presented. And I'm available to ask or answer any further questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Actually, I have one. When you talked about the service hours, you said we were up 32%. And my question is that from our current numbers now, or was that pre-COVID?
So that is from our current numbers now to when what would be implemented in, and I'm going to back up a slide, implemented by no later than the September 2026 service change.
So if people all of a sudden went back to pre-COVID, I mean, I'm seeing some things and I'm hoping that's going to happen. So actually that could be higher, correct?
We could, if we end up higher than that at a later point, then we would come back to you and ask for additional approvals to exceed what we've proposed here. The number we've proposed is our best projection of our available resource level to deliver service, not just the ridership. So it's also incorporating a projection of what our workforce growth opportunities are and what we seem to be trending at, our ability to continue to maintain the vehicles and what we're going to have available, as well as what we're seeing in ridership trends. The good news is we still have sufficient capacity on what we have out there that even though you're seeing these great ridership numbers, especially on local service, there's still room to grow. So I'm not concerned about immediately panicking or having an overcrowding situation on a large portion of our network because things are changing. We're going to have some time to respond. At the same time, I can only do, and I only want to promise what we have the ability to deliver. And so trying to respect those two kind of bookends of the planning process is why we've proposed it in this fashion.
Okay, I have one other question. We had 2 comments today on the bus route not going down to Seattle. I'm just curious, what are we telling people when, what are we saying to them? as to why we're not doing it and why that works out the best for us, you know.
I think there's a number of ways that we've responded to that. And I'm not sure that necessarily fits the commenter's desired action. One part of this is to talk about the money side. You know, we've asked for the community's investment in our agency to provide specific services, but the region has also supported Sound Transit and its investment in providing additional services into the county. One of our concerns as an agency is how to best respect both of those sets of investments. And do we as an agency continue to need to duplicate what is being provided on a regional basis through Sound Transit? Our argument and our proposal in front of you is to say no, that the regional transportation that the region has invested in through Sound Transit should be provided by Sound Transit, allowing us to refocus our efforts on providing additional services within Snohomish County. That is an answer to the process. I'd say the second side is there's a lot of folks who are concerned about needing to make a transfer onto a light rail system and what that's going to mean for their trip. What we've said is we understand. I don't want to say we feel your pain, but we've been through it ourselves. I make that transfer as well when I'm traveling down to Seattle. It involves change, and change is hard. And our intent is to communicate with our riding public through the process to help make that change as minimally painful as possible, and to the best of our ability, deliver services and schedules that continue to meet their needs as they're making that trip.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that response. Any other questions? Oh.
Another comment about that is King County Transit is, or King County Metro is also doing this. So I think that if we have somebody getting on a Midwood going down to a certain place in Seattle, they're going to be able to make better connections to King County Metro to get them to Lake Union or South Lake Union and those kinds of places too. So it really is that what we're doing as transit agencies in the whole region is looking at a regional transportation process that includes King County Metro, Sound Transit, Pierce Transit, and Community Transit, and Everett Transit for that matter. And everybody is changing to the new paradigm that we're going to have as soon as Sound Transit's, even not even finished yet, but as we can, we're trying to get better services. So I think that some of the answers that we can give others that are having a little bit of difficulty understanding how it's going to work, other than, each personal problem of, I don't really want to do that, that those services are going to be there for them. It's just maybe not community transit down in King County.
I would say we've tried to communicate that as well. We are a phase ahead of King County Metro in the process. They will be going back out for their final proposal to restructure. I believe it's in another 60 days or so to be able to take to their council for approval at the end of the year for implementation sometime in 2024. So it's a little bit difficult for us to say exactly what that's going to turn into, but we've been working very closely with our counterparts. We've actually had interconnected planning meetings on all of our restructure proposals so that we can, as best as possible, tie our services together to be able to make those transfers as seamless as possible.
I would just add a couple more observations if I could. We're doing other things as well. When we communicate the regional transfer, our messaging includes reminding folks how the quality of the commute into King County will increase with light rail. That rail system will offer a 28-minute commute every day, every hour, every 8 minutes initially. And those trains won't get stuck in traffic, and they won't be affected by weather, and they won't be affected by accidents or law enforcement actions in the freeway corridor. So there's an upgrade there that is a compelling trade-off with respect to the transfer. The theory is it'll be a better overall commute. Secondly, you've been briefed and heard about our new website and our new trip planner. We have a state of the industry interface for our customers to use to plan those trips and find those connections that you're talking about, Councilmember Daughtry. So We used the Northgate opening as a beta test for what's coming next year to learn ourselves how we can support our customers through that transition. So the outreach effort that we will undertake next year when this change is being implemented will be informed by that experience. And it is our intent to help our customers and support them through this transition as strongly as we're able and make it a positive experience.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Then I would, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Peterson. Can you hear us? We see your hand.
Sorry, that was an inadvertent hand raise. I
Oh,
will lower
okay.
that.
What?
You ready for a motion?
Yes, I'm ready for a motion.
All
Good.
right. First, I want to say thank you to Chris, award-winning Chris Simmons. Very nice report. And I would like to move that the board approve the 2024 and beyond bus network restructuring proposal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Yeah. We're on our way.
You know, it's not like we did anything on this. We just
No.
approved it.
You guys did it all, trust me. Okay, now we're down to the chair's report, and I do have one short thing. Every day, I know all of us listen or read the news to see what our legislators are doing. And of course, those attached to cities and to CT, our biggest concern is what they're going to do on the Blake. And one of the things that's happening, and I'm not sure how many of you know this, but the cities are starting to step up. And Monday night at our city council in Arlington, we passed a law that made having either in possession of illegal drugs or taking illegal drugs in public places is now against the law, and you will be arrested. Now, there are other cities that's doing that. I think I heard Marysville did the same thing. And Mukilteo did. Oh, you're looking at it.
Other cities have done.
Yeah, and so the cities are stepping up. I haven't read anything that makes me think they're going to change the Blake decision. So we may have to go with cities, which means that as far as community transit, we're going to have to look at how our coach operators know when they're in an area that it's illegal on their bus and when they're in county and it's fine. And so we may have to change some things as it go along. I'm still hoping. I think I saw somewhere that the legislative session was open or closed the 23rd of April. I think somewhere. So let's hope that they actually do some things with all those police majors or things that are out there. But that's definitely going to have an impact. But I know from the thing with Arlington on Monday that it's definitely hitting the press. One item, a quarterly board workshop is scheduled for April 20th at 3 p.m. The tentative topics are Journey 2050, Community Transit's long-range plan, and zero emissions update. And the next regular board meeting is scheduled for May 4th at 3 p.m. So now it's time for board communication. I'm going to start down my list and start with Kim. Do you have anything?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Fritzell?
I did not, other than we also passed a similar law based upon John Naring's city's laws.
Okay, did she say that they just passed that too? Okay, great. I had no way of finding out because it's all so new. So Joe, do you have anything?
Yeah, it's doing a great job as chair, by the way. I'm very happy to be the other end of the bookend. Mayor Naring, it's good to see you down there. Congratulations to all of the award-winning employees. Thank you for everything you do, and all of those striving to be an award winner. Hang in there. Every year there's a shot. So thank you for that. Also, thank you to Community Transit for we were able to host the awards at Muckletee, as you had mentioned, and we're very happy to do that. It's nice because we're so close. I know Arlington may want to host next year, but if not, we certainly would continue to do that. And finally, I am very excited that yesterday I ordered an egg and a chicken from Amazon. So I'm super excited to see which comes first.
Well, that was a joke. I didn't. Okay. Okay. Tom, do you have anything?
Who's your writer?
The jokes are still bad.
Do you have anything?
No, I can't follow that up with anything. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Neri.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. Wish Mark Holmes
Well, we got to keep it on. I think that they booted themselves off. They're probably going along just fine, but they're.
No, I think we actually had a technical issue. Zoom is having issues, and I think we lost the connection. So, excuse me, I need to get on Teams and see if I can restore that. Please stand by.
Well, we have an executive session coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to let Rachel know that on Teams.
Okay.
Thanks. It appears that they're going to be restarting and coming back into this meeting. I can't speak to Rachel directly. She's really busy, so.
Okay.
Okay.
For any board members remaining on the meeting, we are headed into executive session. Zoom had some issues, but there is the Zoom link, board members, towards the top of your agenda listed for executive session. That will be for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back into session. And if there is any other business, anyone have anything else they wanted to bring up?
Not from staff.
Okay, then I move to adjourn. Oh, man, I'm not supposed to do that. Okay. Okay.